Welcome to Inexpensive Arms. My name's Steve. More pew, less money, no bull. That's what we're trying to do here. Today we're going to take a look at the Bear Creek Arsenal 20-inch 4150 steel SOCOM profile rifle length gas barrel with a 1 in 10 twist chambered in 308. Now, I wanted to take a look at this barrel because, as you see here, it currently sells on Bear Creek Arsenal's website for about $100. I purchased it over Veterans Day for about $65 shipped thanks to a veterans discount, which they do once a year. That's pretty decent. And I had a bunch of AR-10 parts. I should say LR308 because this is a DPMS pattern rifle build. And so I was slowly piecing everything together, and this barrel just kind of pushed it over the top. All said and done, the build that you see on the main title page cost me about $700 total. That includes the barrel, a drop-in trigger, the entire Aero Precision furniture piece set that you see. That's absolutely everything included. And then with scope and mount, about $1,000 flat. So my goal was under $1,000, shoot 1,000 yards or thereabouts, maybe 800 realistically with this cartridge, but that was kind of the goal. So let's see how I did. Now I should note, this is not a full review video. I only tested with 3 different loads, and 2 of those loads were kind of bottom of the barrel stuff. So as far as decent ammo that I tested it with, there was only 1. But briefly, the loads that I tested were Federal M80 ball ammo, Federal gold medal match with 168 grain Sierra Match Kings, and lastly 145 grain Wolf steel cased ammo. It's nearly January and December, and although it's unseasonably warm, I was still freezing my butt off at the range, so a lot of these groups I probably could tighten up with a little bit balmier weather. But it is what it is. I sighted in at 50 yards, and from there I took it out to 100 yards and then 200 yards. Now I'm going to very briefly show you the results of how the rifle shot. Before I do that, though, I do want to say that I did have the feeling that this rifle was slightly undergassed. It works fine with M80 ball ammo, absolutely perfect function, and it's relatively light recoiling. However, the first time I switched over to Federal Match, I had problems with it short stroking just a little bit. It wouldn't fully go back into battery with another round, so I'd have to lock it back, reseat the mag, drop it forward. After about 5 or 6 rounds of that, though, that problem cleared up and I didn't experience any other problems. That being said, it is something to keep in mind. I think right now, as it sits, I'm right at the bleeding edge of reliability on gas versus function. Now, I know it's not a gas block issue. I know there's no obstructions or misalignments there. So I do know that it's a pretty heavy buffer spring on this 308. What I'll probably wind up doing is swapping out the buffer spring for something just a hair lighter or more consistent, like a tub flat wire buffer spring. I have a feeling that'll ameliorate any problems that I have with it cycling right now. But we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. As it sits for the first couple of rounds through it, I was happy with how it performed. Alright, so very briefly, I'm going to show you the targets from 50 yards, from 100 yards, and then lastly from 200 yards. Nothing too exciting about them, and unfortunately, I left my tape measure at home, so I had to figure out how big the groups were once I got back home. I apologize for that, but I'll post the pictures and I'll let you know what size each group was and what kind of accuracy I got with a chart. I should note that I don't have an accurate size for the 100-yard group of gold medal match, and the reason being is I had stickies over the target for my sight-in bullet holes. Unfortunately, when I took the target down, those fell off and they all kind of got mixed up together. As I recall, it was about 1.5 inches, and that's what I put down because that's my best estimation of it. But I do have results for the 200 on that particular load. All right, somehow I lost my, I left my tape measure, but I'll show you, I'll measure the results when I get home. This is the first one. This is the M80 ball at 100 yards. If I had to guess, it's about a 3.5 inch group. Nothing to write home about, that's for sure. Then we had the gold medal match.
I mean, 4 of them are probably at about an inch. The last one's a little bit outside. We're probably about 1.5 inches. But again, that was not one continuous cheek weld. So readjusted 3 different times, still achieved those results. Reasonably happy. I don't think it's indicative of a bad barrel, that's for sure. And then lastly, I was pretty happy with this one actually. That's at probably about a 2.5 inch group, and that's the Wolf Steel. I mean, gee willikers. If I can expect that, I might just shoot just that. Can't beat it for the price. Again, these are at 50 yards. That's the very first 3 rounds out of this barrel. So let's walk it back to 200 yards, and I guess we'll see what we see. Oh man, guys, I can't wait to show you this one. I don't even know what to say. All right. Here we go. So we're at 200 yards. Again, I forgot my tape measure, so I'm going to have to measure them, and I'll show you. I'll edit that in later. All right, hang on. All right, so that M80 ball is kind of all over the place, right? That's probably about a 8 or 9 inch group. Call it 4.5 MOA. That's probably 2.5, 3 MOA. Or sorry, 2.5, 3 inches. So about 1.5 inches. That's the gold medal match. I mean, it would have been pretty darn near 1 MOA. It would have been, that's probably about a little over a 2 inch group without that one. Well, look at this, guys. And I called that one. That was my 4th shot. I called it a flyer. That's the Wolf Steel cased. Holy freaking crap, dude. So what do we have in common here? M80 doesn't shoot that great, right? You got to find a load that works. Some guns just don't like specific loads, whatever, right? That's 150 grain, 168 grain. I mean, it shoots them decently well. But I mean, good God. Good God. And I called that one. I knew it broke. I didn't even see where it landed, but I knew it as it broke. I knew I yanked it. Wolf Steel case. It's like 40 cents a round, maybe, not even. All right, guys, I think I found what I'm shooting with this thing.
Once I got back home, I pulled the targets and measured the groups, and I was pretty close out there at the range. So briefly, 100-yard target, the M80 wound up with a 4.25 inch group. The gold medal match, some of the stickies fell off, but I estimated it at about 1.5 inches. The Wolf Steel cased, 2.3 inches. And then if you look at the upper right-hand corner, you're going to notice a clover leaf. That was the 3 rounds I was talking about that when I was initially setting in the scope. That's M80 ball that I put through about a 0.5 MOA group. I was pretty impressed with that. Moving on to 200 yards. M80, again, keeping with the 4 MOA consistency, it's about an 8 inch group, 8.25 inches. Gold medal match, 2.8 inches. That's about a 1.35 MOA group or so. And then Wolf Steel cased. Holy crap. So, with flyer, 4.5 inches. I called that when it broke. I knew that it was a flyer. I don't play that flyer game that often, but if you throw that out, this is an 1.5 inch group, which means it's 0.75 MOA. I don't think that ammo in this barrel is going to get you that, but I bet it's capable of sub 2 MOA pretty easily once it breaks in. So I'm really happy with that. So let's talk value. Right now, this barrel is selling for just under $100 on Bear Creek Arsenal. You can generally find codes that'll get you another 5% off, but you'll end up paying for shipping. So you'll probably be at about 110 bucks shipped. At that price, it's kind of murky territory because I'm actually really happy with this barrel, and I think it competes nicely against places like Ballistic Advantage or some of the just cheaper DPMS pattern barrels, and I'm perfectly happy with it. Especially at about $65, which is what I paid for it. I would say I recommend it so far. I think it's only going to get better, especially as it breaks in. Now, keep in mind, I only put 30 rounds down range with this barrel today. It's not fully broken in. I haven't tested a bunch of loads and haven't found one that it really likes. So I'm excited about what this barrel may be capable of when we're all said and done. So I hope anybody putting together a cheap 308 is going to take a look at this barrel seriously. I'm very impressed with it, and I can say that it is one of the nicer barrels that I've ever run across from Bear Creek Arsenal. The rifling and chamber look awesome. The crown looked great. Everything about it just seemed very high quality. So kudos, Bear Creek Arsenal. I'm a happy customer. Now, that doesn't mean that there's not a couple of little niggling issues that I'm going to have to work out. And one of those is the just being right at the edge of its cycling with lower power loads. So I'm going to mess around with that a little bit more. I think it's mostly resolved now that I've put a couple of rounds down range with it. But I'll clean it. I'll check it again. I'm not too concerned about it because worst case scenario, I can open up the gas port just a hair more. But I really think that a lot of that is due to the really heavy spring that I have in that A2 style stock. And I may just try putting in a flat wire buffer spring and see if that doesn't fix out any of the cycling issues with lesser powered loads or lighter loads. I hope this helps you guys. I hope you guys have a great New Year's. May God bless you and may God bless America.